Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, and today I'm very excited because we're doing a short-term rental roundtable. And so today I'm bringing back two previous guests who are both amazing. Josh Laguerre and Vivian Walsh are both licensed real estate agents. They're both Airbnb super hosts. They both manage short-term rentals for multiple clients. And I just can't wait to talk to them. We're going to be doing a part one that's going to be geared towards beginning of short-term rentals, and then part two for our more advanced people. So definitely check out this full episode. And without further ado, let's introduce Josh and Vivian.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey guys, how y'all doing today?
Doing great. Excited
Awesome.
to be here.
Perfect. Well, Josh, Vivian, welcome to the podcast. I'm pumped to have two seasoned super hosts here today. Before we dive in, can you guys give us a little intro, where you guys are based out of, how long you've been hosting, and how many listings you currently manage? And let's do ladies first. Vivian.
There you go.
All right. I'm based out of Pensacola. I've been hosting for, I think, almost 3 years now, and I've got 4 listings.
Awesome. All right. What about you, Josh?
Sweet. I've been hosting for about 4.5 years now. Did so when I PCS here through the military. Saw a good market for it. I currently have 15 listings now, and based out of Eglin Air Force Base area. So anywhere from Navarre to Destin, Miramar area.
Awesome. No, that's my hometown area, and I currently live over in Pensacola, so I got personal connections to both these zones. So definitely excited. So let's talk big picture. Why should someone get into short-term rentals right now, and what are the biggest advantages compared to long-term rentals? You want to start, Vivian?
Yeah, I would say the biggest advantage is that you're going to make a lot more than you would on a long term. For the ones that we personally own, I think we're making double than we would with the long-term rent. So that's like the main advantage of why I put in the extra effort and the extra work to do short-term.
Yeah, and I'd say, like, if you're willing to do the work, if you're more of a hands-on person and willing to kind of research and figure out just different ways to offset costs, to generate more income, to market your property better, if that's you and you're kind of passionate about it, I'd say go the Airbnb route. But if you're looking for something more passive, maybe doing it on the side, then it might not pan out for you, No,
I think that's a great bits from both of you guys, because as someone who has both long-term and short-term rentals like myself, I totally see that. I have my ones that, that I'm now we're in our season started, I'm messaging guests every day between the 2 short-term rentals that I have. And then my long-term rentals, I just get that monthly check in the mail, and I really don't have to do much for it. Definitely two advantages. I love both options, but yeah, one is definitely a little bit more work. A lot of people are worried about competition and saturation. Do you see opportunity in short-term rentals? Do you still see opportunity in short-term rentals in today's market? Why don't switch it and start with you, Josh?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you really have to consider the whole holistic view of that specific property, the location, what type of amenities you're going to provide. A lot of people ask me, like, hey, Josh, do you think my property would make money? And it's like, well, are you just going to put beds in it? Like, I don't know. Like, are you going to put, pack and play, a baby bath, some, high chair? Are you going to accommodate pets? A lot of people are choosing Airbnbs because they can bring the family close together, and not just be in one hotel room as opposed to a hotel. Because hotels, some of them do allow dogs, but, pets is another reason for people choosing Airbnbs, because they could just let them out back. So if you don't have a fence, there's just like little things that you kind of learn. But yeah, it really depends on how invested are you in that short-term rental. Are you theming it out, or are you just, kind of putting in things and not really going above and beyond? So you do absolutely have to stand out, because the market is more saturated now.
Great. Vivian, do you still see opportunity in today's short-term rental market?
Yeah, and I totally agree with all of that. I mean, I think that just like anything, there's going to be competition, and there is a lot of competition. So just like anything else, what are you going to do to stand out? You definitely have to go above and beyond and be different. I've heard that like back in the day, you could just throw some beds in there and like it would be booked. That's what I've heard. It's definitely not what I've experienced. I think that you just have to put in a little extra effort. And then if you're willing to do that, then it could definitely still be worth it.
No, I agree. And actually, Josh, I like that perspective on the whole pets thing, because that's actually this year I have booked 2 Airbnbs specifically because I was taking mine and my girlfriend's dog with me. So that was the total reason why us as 2 people chose the Airbnb over renting a hotel room, because I often tell people that a lot of times hotels are cheaper for under 4 guests. And when you go like 4 or more is when you start getting the economies of scale on renting a Airbnb and splitting with friends. So, but yeah, I definitely agree that pets are a part of the modern Americans. We treat them like kids now. I know, but actually both you guys love your dogs. So, but yeah, no, I definitely agree with the pets one. For a beginner, what do you think is the most important first step in the right property, the right location, or the right mindset?
Well, I mean, I think, I think, you got to run the numbers, obviously, right? So you got to have that, investor mindset where you're like, okay, maybe you don't know everything, right? You don't want to get into that paralysis by analysis phase, but you want to do enough research with the market, see if there is a saturation, see what your competition looks like. What are people that are getting booked have? Do they all have pools? Are people in certain areas not getting booked as much? You definitely don't want to book in like the ghetto or something where people feel unsafe. You definitely want to book where there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of transient. So, airports, tourist attractions, beaches, obviously, things like that is perfect. And then Pensacola, you got a downtown area. There's a ton of things to do. So just looking into markets like that.
Yeah, I think all 3 are equally as important, because you can also you can have the right house, like the right deal and the right location, but if you don't have the right mindset and you don't realize what it takes to run a short-term rental, and you don't set it up right, and you don't have your ducks in a row, then you could you could just miss it, and you could get bad reviews off the rip and then just be kind of screwed.
No, I like those answers. I'm actually going to vary on you guys. I'm going to say it's mindset, location, than property. That's my opinion on it. And I'm actually going to elaborate on why I think that. I think first you got to be in the right headspace to even get started. So if you don't have the right mindset, you're not. I would say then second, if you're not looking in the right location, you're going to be in the wrong business. So I think location, and then actually the property. That's when you really got to run the numbers, make sure the specific property works. But I like I said, all those answers I think are good, because like I said, I think they're all part of the equation to be successful in short-term rentals.
I think the order you just gave is the steps 1, 2, and 3, the order that you should do it in.
Well, to be honest, y'all helped me with that, because after I listened to both of y'all, then I reread the question. That's when I was able to give the perfect answer. So, got
to be in the right mindset for those guests, those Karens.
Bro, you're telling me. Man, so how did each of you guys get your first short-term rental deal, and any creative financing or unique strategies used? I'm actually going to start with Vivian on this one, because I know Bryce, her boyfriend, well, and I'm expecting that he might have pulled in some creative financing on the deal. So let's just see what those answers are.
So, disappoint you. The house that we're living in is creative. It's a sub 2, but the duplex that we bought was our first deal. It was the Airbnb, and that was not creative. We just had a wholesaler bring that to us, a wholesaler friend. So he did have a good deal, but we put solar on it, and that tax credit really helped us out. So that's kind of, a little creative thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. So y'all added the solar yourselves?
Yes, Bryce was actually a solar rep at the time.
Okay, cool. Any regrets now that he's out of that business? Because I know there's mixed reviews on solar and real estate.
Heck no, we have solar on this house too, and I love it. And I love having it on the duplex because like we don't really have to worry about how much power they're using. Like that's never really a thought for us. We leave the lamps on for them, and it's just not something we even have to like stress about.
That's really cool. Do you recommend people only do that if they plan on holding that property for a long time, or do you recommend them looking into it immediately? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I know that we love it, but I don't want to get into the weeds of like what happens when you try to sell and how exactly that works because I'm just not going to have all the answers for that.
That's what I was
I
going to say.
we love it and it's been great for us and our properties.
No, and that makes sense. And I know you just recently got licensed, as an agent. So I don't know if you had that in your deals yet. I'm sure Josh has probably seen a few hairy solar deals. Have you had any solar deals screw up a real estate deal?
Yeah, no, I've had solar. It just makes it a little bit harder because, if you can imagine, I mean, I think I saw a stat. It was like 80% of Americans can't afford a house, right? So like you tack on a solar panel loan, which a lot of sellers are like, hey, or, you get guys that say, hey, this is going to help sell your house quicker. If you pay cash for them, sure, right? But if you don't, most people don't. They finance it because you don't have to put anything down. Who wouldn't, right? And then you go to sell it. It's like, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, by the way, you've got to assume these panels as well. As soon as buyers hear that, they're going to be like, yep, nope, unless you put in there, hey, the seller's willing to pay off the panels, right? Because then it means cheap power bill for you, right? So absolutely, if you plan on keeping it for a long time, solar is definitely a good thing. Definitely consider the age of the roof, because when you replace that roof, guess what? You're gonna have to take the solar panels off, and then you have to reinstall them, right? So those are all just additional costs and things. But when you go to sell, you got to keep in mind that it's not to the buyer's advantage to have them unpaid on a house, because they'll a lot of times unqualify someone for a loan because they just can't afford it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, definitely something to consider. So if you're going to hold it for a long time, as Vivian said, there's some tax advantages, with it, and then it obviously benefits from the ownership. But to Josh's point, if you plan on selling it, just be aware that you might, unqualify, a buyer because you don't. If you're already only working with 20% of the whole, U.S. market, since 80% can't qualify, then yeah, it's already tight. But let's get back to the core question. What was your short-term rental deal, Josh? And then any unique strategy on how you got it?
Yeah, I do. It's nothing super spectacular. I mean, I think it's one of those things that's like hiding in plain sight. A lot of people can do it if they really wanted to. They could. But what I did was I bought my first primary and started renting the rooms out via Airbnb. And we talked a little bit about this on the last podcast. But the first month, 2 months, I ended up paying my mortgage, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start adding rooms, right? Because I just did one room, wanted to see how it was going to go. Went really well. And then over the next few months, I ended up moving out at some point. It was closer to a year because I was doing the rooms individually. And then I moved out to my buddy's house across the street, and he's in the special forces. And he's like, yeah, just stay at my house and watch it for me. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll at least throw you like $600 or something. And that's where we landed. And like, I was making, stupid money. First month I rented the whole house out. It was, 12 grand gross. And I mean, this is like post COVID, right? And so I was like, I'm getting out of the military, but yeah, so I ended up doing room hacking and then saving up money, bought my next primary rental, and then did the same thing, but I added an additional room, and then bought, investment property and then another primary. So I buy a lot of primaries to get the cheaper rate, use a primary home loan, which I do live in the properties. And then I just rent out the rooms to offset, that mortgage and everything.
Yeah, and I love that. Yeah, I actually remember you bringing that up because Will was a house hacker himself whenever he got started, and I mean, for anybody listening, that is one of the best ways someone brand new can get into real estate, to get in their first deal and have other people help pay for it. is because under a conventional loan, you can sometimes put as little as 5% down. So only having to put 5 or 10% down on a nicer property, and then have other people stand in the rooms. That's an awesome strategy. And then just kind of a lucky scenario on getting super cheap rent directly across the street. I mean, that's awesome. What platforms do you recommend people start on? Airbnb, VRBO, direct booking? Which one of those do you recommend and why, Vivian?
I love Airbnb. I really do. I feel like they're the easiest to deal with, especially like once you become a super host. I swear they treat you different. Like they're talk to you a little nicer. They're on your side.
Direct phone number. You can get someone on the phone in like a minute.
Yeah, like it's very different. And then of course they have like the host protection too, which is really nice. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's the most like user friendly. They like boost your property when you first put it on there, so like they really give you a chance. I feel like they're really good about that. I'd say like that's the easiest to start with, especially if you don't want to start with having it on a bunch of different platforms. Like if you want to like work up to that, so then like pay for a service where you can put all those into one spot. So I guess I would say Airbnb.
Cool. And actually, I'll even add that host protection, that's huge. I mean, when we later on we get into horror stories on previous episodes, I know I've mentioned mine, but I mean, it has saved me thousands of dollars that I have to put on my own personal insurance that I've been able to use them. Josh, you got the same opinion or a different view?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Airbnb, hands down, just the most user-friendly, best place to start. You're going to get the most bookings through Airbnb. The next place would be Vrbo. And then if you get booking.com would be number 3, and then Hopper. But once you start getting into more than just Airbnb and Vrbo, you get into, calendar issues and booking. You need a channel manager at that point to manage everything on one platform, which is your PMS, your property management software, right? And so, but highly recommend start with Airbnb and then get to Vrbo once you've mastered Airbnb.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So short-term rentals can feel overwhelming at first. The cleaning, the messaging, turnovers. What are some tools or systems you recommend for making hosting more manageable? Why don't you take that first, Josh?
Yeah, I'll even throw another one in there, maintenance, like maintenance, cleaning, turnovers, all that. So, you got to have a great cleaning manager. You got to have either yourself or, a good maintainer available. There's software out there like Turno. It used to be Turnover B&B. Now it's Turno, and that synchronizes like yourself and cleaners. I think it has some maintenance capabilities to it, but I've recently, like 3 months ago, hooked up with Breezeway. So I got rid of Turno. And Breezeway, what it does is it connects maintainers and your cleaners, right? And so when the cleaners go in, they take all the photos. They're like, hey, here's everything clean. Here's some issues. There's a 3-inch drywall damage, right? A hole in the wall. So they'll do that. My virtual assistant captures that, turns it into a work order, and then sends it to my maintenance company. And then we'll schedule a time. The virtual assistant will, and then they'll go and fix it. And then they bill me and I pay them. And then I bill the owner, right? And so I collect all the receipts, make sure it makes it onto the owner statements. But that cut out a lot of time and stress for me because I was like going to the houses and I thought, with your commission, like, oh, you're supposed to do all that. You're losing a ton of money if you're managing other people's properties and you're maintaining their house for free. You know what I mean? All the time, equipment, supplies that you're paying, you're quickly going to get out of the business, which I was paying money to manage a lot of people's places for like a year or two. It was
right.
Great.
So you're saying once you kind of really understood it, that's when you realize like that, you for repairs and things, those are things that fall on the actual property owner, not you as the manager.
Right. So, yeah. We have to make sure it's repaired and it's ready for the next guest. But we get it done. We're overseeing, we're managing it. We send in the maintainers, we pay the maintainers. It comes out of the owner's payout.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good. Do you do the same, Vivian, or how do you do it?
I'm gonna take a mental note of Breezeway. That sounds awesome. I've been using Turno, but that's great. I haven't heard of that yet. So that's awesome.
That's why we're having this roundtable. I'm writing
Yeah,
notes.
that's good. But I would say, like, especially specifically for beginners, make sure that you have, the biggest thing for me has been having a smart lock that actually connects with Airbnb, because that saves me so much time. And like, you never want a guest to get there and off the rip they're having a hard time getting in. It just makes it so much easier. It's like automatically sends for the dates that they have, like automatically text them their code. It'll automatically adjust if they adjust their booking. So then like there's just so much less room for error. And so there's less room for friction with the guests. So I'd say that's like probably the biggest thing. And then
yeah, tell me about that. And Josh might know that too, but I'm not familiar with that part. Maybe I'm old school. I'm just putting in the code and sending it to my guests. So how do you sync your lock in? What kind of lock is it that you have that syncs into Airbnb?
So we use August smart locks.
Okay.
And yeah, you can directly, we use a channel manager, so we integrate it into the channel manager. But before we had we just integrated it directly to Airbnb, and it's right on there, like with your listing to integrate the lock, and it's super easy. And so yeah, any adjustment on the dates, it'll automatically adjust, like it communicates with the lock, so it'll automatically adjust their code on the lock for whatever change that they did to the dates. And yeah, as soon as they book, it sends them the code, because that's how I have my messages set up.
Right.
Yeah, so it's so easy. It takes all of that effort away from me.
Neat. Do you do the same thing, Josh?
Well, let me ask you, Vivian, is that like, are you able to do that with Verbo and Booking.com through your channel manager?
Yes, because we use the channel manager. We use Guesty.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, so I actually dove into August locks initially. And I think this was like 3 or 4 years ago. I had issues with guests complaining to, download the app and things like that. People that weren't as tech savvy. It sounds like, they've probably upgraded a lot of the way they do things and have gotten a lot better. So it might be something worth me revisiting. But right now, we put all the codes, like smart codes, into as a custom field into Guesty, and then we have our automation messages go out, and then those codes just automatically populate. But it's the same code until we change it. So we change those codes within the listing, and then it sends it. But the way you're doing it is 100 times better than the way I'm doing it. So well done there.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it's a game changer, and they don't have to download an app or anything.
Yeah. Do you have the keypad and the August lock, or just like, is there just one?
Yeah, we have like the lock on the deadbolt and then the little keypad right next to it.
Yeah, because then you got 2 battery sets that you got to change, and that's true. You just got to get lithium batteries and then call it good. But we were changing batteries nonstop, and then that would lead to guests not being able to check in, because of course you never get the notification, or it notifies you even after you change it. Then you're like, I don't know when my batteries are dead. But anyway, yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you've cracked the code there.
They're pretty good about sending the reminders too when it's running low. So yeah. I just don't play any games, and I just change them right away. And yeah, I try to get good batteries, because that's a lot.
I'm definitely going to look into that later, because like I said, the reason I was intrigued is because like literally today, my next 3 guests for each of my rentals, I messaged them all their code information, today by me setting the codes and sending them out. Because like I said, since I only have 2, I do a lot manually, but that definitely sounds like a much smarter way to do it. So no, I'm gonna check that out.
Smart lock, but there was one. So another friction point with that was like, connecting to the Wi-Fi. So if it disconnected from the Wi-Fi, let's say like a thunderstorm happened here, the guest wouldn't get the codes because it would need that Wi-Fi or whatever. If Cox was out of service, Cox the internet provider, the guest wouldn't get the code, and so it would just like keep me up at night. But yeah, maybe I need to get with you, Vivian, and figure out what y'all are doing. Maybe it's something I'm just doing wrong over here. So,
well, I feel like I mean, we have had like issues where the Wi-Fi has gone out, but it sends an alert, and so I'm just on it right away. Like I'm making sure that there's nothing going wrong.
Right.
So that doesn't keep me up at night. But for extra good rest, we just have a lockbox on the side of the house in case of
Yes.
emergencies.
Mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. So when it comes to short-term rentals, pricing strategy is a big one. How do you guys set your nightly rates, and how often are you adjusting them? Vivian.
Price labs.
Price Labs?
Price labs all the way.
Cool. Is that a website or is that an app?
Both.
The
Okay.
dynamic pricing tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say we do like to play with so that will like pretty much change and adjust your nightly rate based off what's going on around you, weekends, holidays. But I will play around with the pricing if so with Guesty, I'll sometimes up the price a little bit if like I have a little bit of emptiness on my calendar. I'll go into Guesty and up the price a little bit and then go on to Airbnb and run a discount. Because if you have like 20, say it's like 20% or something, they'll like boost your property, like send out emails, they'll do all this stuff, like showing that you're running like a discount. So that's worked for me.
Gotcha. So you price it up on the one, then apply your discount to get it better advertised, pretty much at the same price.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are dynamic pricing tools, and I use Wheelhouse. They're both very similar. I've heard a lot of good things about Price Labs too. I just so happen to dive into Wheelhouse, and they, they're really great because you could say, hey, if someone books 6 months or more, I want them to book 5 days minimum, right? And so as you get closer, you can adjust those minimum dates. You can set gap pricing. You can set you can be more aggressive on weekends if you want. You can go in and manually select, all your listings from a date range, and then you can do a 25% increase, however you want to do it. But it's really good. And like, if you nerd out on it, you can really have a lot of control over your pricing, or it's a great way to just not stress over like every day, just adjusting prices. You're kind of letting the market dictate that based on what's available in your area. That's a similar house with 3 beds, 2 bath. I mean, they even consider amenities that you have in your house. It'll pull that data from the channel manager that it's connected to, or Airbnb, and it'll price it accordingly. So there's some pretty cool things.
How are those different from just using the smart pricing on Airbnb?
I just think it's a outside, it's a second opinion almost, right? And it's like pulling. I don't feel like Airbnb has, and I could be wrong on this, I don't feel like Airbnb knows what Verbos are booking for. You know what I mean? Maybe they do, but maybe not, right? I don't know if you know anything about that, Vivian.
No, I was just going to say I haven't really looked into the Airbnb's version of it.
Yeah, I was just curious because, like I said, right now, I just have the 2 short-term rentals. I pretty much rent them out solely on Airbnb. And, during certain times of the year, I use the smart pricing. Other times of the year, I realize, like, man, if it's like usually during the winter time, if I use their smart pricing, I'll never get booked because it has it like way too high. If I start going under it, I'll get booked quick. But then during the summertime, if I use their smart pricing, I'm still booked. So, so that's why I just noticed it. But I'm actually going to look into these Price Labs and Wheelhouse for my own sake. That's good advice. Reviews can make or break a listing. What are go-to strategies for getting 5-star reviews consistently? We'll start with Vivian.
Obviously having a 5-star worthy place and like having a 5-star worthy experience for your guests. But a big thing that we did that made us actually get a lot more reviews and 5-star reviews was we started asking for them, like just blatantly at the end whenever they're checking out, like, hey, if you enjoyed your stay, and kind of playing into the emotions, like if you feel like we deserve it, it really helps our small business, like really kind of playing into the emotions to like Hey, oh, and saying like if you had any feedback, like there's a private feedback section, or like let us know if there was anything you didn't like, kind of encouraging them to do that privately, and like emphasizing how important reviews are for us. And so because I feel like a lot of people before would kind of like have you ever had someone put 5 stars in every category and then like a 4 overall or something, and you're like, why?
Yes.
Should not be allowed.
Yeah, or the reviews like, oh my God, it was so great and awesome and amazing, 4 stars. And you're like, what the heck? So just like
I'll
putting
get
it
started on my restaurant ones. I own 4 restaurants. Everything I have is a minimum of 4.5 or higher. I can't stand getting a perfect 4-star review. Like it's the biggest pet peeve. Tell me I did everything right, 4 stars. It's like,
yeah, so we just started really like putting that in their heads. We put these little like stickers too on the fridge that like explain how the ratings work, and like how like anything less than 5 stars is basically a negative review. It's going to negatively impact you. And then if they don't leave the review right away, we send a follow-up message like, hey, if you enjoyed your stay, we'd really appreciate it. A review means a lot to us. So I feel like ever since we've started doing that, we've seen more reviews than we would normally receive.
perfect. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the experience and everything. Communication's a really big thing. We have automated messages going out throughout their stay and when they book. It's 6 total messages, and then that final one, like Vivian was saying, it's like, hey, the checkout message before they get that is like, hey, thanks for being a 5-star guest. So you're kind of like putting it into their brain. Here's the checkout instructions. We hope you enjoyed our stay. And then the review message comes where it's like, hey, it's our business, kind of like what Vivian was talking about. Really appreciate you staying. If there's any feedback that you have for us, there's a private section within Airbnb that you can leave that feedback. But we really hope you had a great stay. So, I mean, it's really just that, right? And then just showing that you actually are putting time and care into the home, right? You got all the finishing touches. I like to put labels everywhere, even on light switches, on drawers. It's just kind of like shows that, hey, someone put some thought into this. So really that's your bread and butter for starting or being on the right track. And then, when you do all those things and then you ask for it, it's like usually an easy ask.
Yeah, I love that. I'm actually going to tell y'all one other thing I did that I think y'all both like that y'all can easily do. My Wi-Fi passwords is 5-star review. for not for my home, in case anyone's trying to hack my internet. For my Airbnbs. So my Airbnbs, the password for the internet is 5-star review. Just an extra way to put it on their mind while they're there. So,
yeah. I forgot to mention too, in the checkout one, we let them know that we're going to be leaving them a 5-star review. Like, we're leaving you a 5-star review. That'll help you get, better treatment from future guests. Like, basically we're like, okay, now can you return the favor?
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually what I typically do. So usually as soon as my person's, my cleaner's gone in and checked it, just to let me know, okay, nothing's broken, everything's good, doing the clean, I then usually go ahead and send them a message right away, thanking them for their stay, let them know that we've left them a 5-star review, and if they could, please do the same. I think, because I definitely think that you got to ask for it. You got to ask for what you want, and I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for it. If you gave 5-star service, obviously don't ask if it wasn't. What do you each of you look for in a good cleaning crew? Any red flags? When you're trying to find that person to help you clean your home. Josh, why don't you start? Because I know you've got a few more, so I'm sure you got a couple more people on the team.
Well, I mean, I think with any worker, like, physical fitness is important, and you see Vivian working out all the time and stuff, but I think it speaks on, their work ethic, right? And so when I'm looking at cleaners and I swing by the property, drop in on them, you know what I mean, unannounced, and see what they're doing, right? A lot of, like, I had one cleaning crew where one of them would be in the house cleaning and the others would be in the car on their phones, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, why not work together to get it done quicker? So like little things like laziness, that's one of the big things. that I look for. Another thing is, just being very transparent, literally telling me everything. My cleaning manager, he calls me nonstop, and it drives me crazy, but I have to tell myself, like, look, he cares about what he does. I mean, he gets to a point where he's like, hey, we can't clean this place until this owner gets all these things for us to make these turnovers easy. And for me, it's very important. Once you find that right cleaner, you're like, done. That's easy. We'll get that in there, right? Because you can make their lives easier if they take care of you. Like, you make their lives easier, that'll go a long way. And you pay them well, that'll keep them, right? So I've got the same cleaning crew for about 3 years now. I've gone through about 6 of them. And I mean, it's tough, like constantly switching and training new people. But once you find that gold mine, like the people that are like, I live, breathe, Ronin stays, like that's when you've made it, and your business is like, I mean, that's the core of your business, right? The cleaners. So yeah, I hope I answer your question.
No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, what you kind of basically weed out, the bad ones, but then once you find that good one, you got to take care of them. What's your experience been, Vivian?
I would say we've had the best luck getting cleaners from referrals rather than like whenever I would find someone on on Turno or something, like just like a cleaning site. A lot of times they were not as good. But if you've got any friends in the business and they like you, they might tell you who's a good cleaner and who's maybe if the original cleaner can't make it type of cleaner. And then also I would say I've had the same experience with my good cleaner, like will blow my phone up, and I have the same thing where I'm like, oh, okay, like I don't need to know every little detail. But then I'm like, okay, this is the good cleaner. She's letting me know every little thing. She's communicating, like she can message me a lot, but like you need that. That's because communication is the biggest thing. And like you said, the cleaner is the core of your business for sure. Yeah, that's what
they can do, like inventory too. Like that's a big deal. Like it's like, hey, how do I need them to, because I mean, I'll stock them owners closets up. They just tell me what we need. We'll get the virtual assistant to order it to the house. We bill the owners, but they like, I'm running the ship from like my office pretty much, right? We've got, inspectors, we've got cleaners, we've got all that to kind of do the thing. Like I don't have to be in every single house for every single turnover. Now I've found a guy that I trust. And if you can find a cleaner that's a good inspector, there you go, right? 2 birds, 1 stone. So that's another aspect, was supplies.
Yeah, no, and I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, for me personally, I've been doing short-term rentals since 2018, and I've had different amounts at different times. I currently have 2, but before I had more condos, got rid of the condos. Now I just have the houses. But what I found is that because it's like I've had certain ones for a long time that were great, and then in between my great ones, I had a couple weeds I had to pull out to go back to get some more flowers again. And so with doing that, my advice for anyone is once you have a bad experience with that cleaner, get rid of that one quick. You can give someone, I mean, I always try to give someone, one mess up that I clearly articulate what they messed up on and how I expect it to be different in the future. But the second they repeat it, gone. Get rid of them right away. Cut the tie. That's my advice. Because it generally doesn't get better after that. If you see if they ignored what you said the first time and continue to do it. And the red flag I've seen is when you have someone who has a cleaning company that starts making excuses about their workers. If they're not taking the ownership in it, because like, if I'm hiring someone who has a company, how the watch is made, I don't care. I just want to know the time. So, it's their job to make sure that the house is cleaned, not to tell me that, so-and-so has, this kid problem today or this health problem that's all that. But that being said, once you find your right people and then you explain to them, which I've done, is basically let them know that, hey, you're more than a cleaner for me. You're my eyes here. And basically walk them through the inventory thing. I think is huge, Josh, because I'm the same way. I keep my place stocked with the cleaning stuff, for my cleaners to operate, but then I also keep it stocked with, snacks and waters and everything for the guests. And so all of that, got to make sure that, all, the cookies and waters are getting put out, and then I got backups, coming. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to make sure that, your cleaner knows that, they're your eyes and ears there, and it's their job to report anything that's not right. And for them to also, every time they walk in the door, for them to put themselves in the position of a guest, walking into on a vacation, not someone walking into their own home, because, what way my own house can be and way I come in on vacation might be two different things and two different expectations. So definitely important. For people who are worried about guests damaging property, what protections or policies should a new host have in place?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Vivian, do you use Guesty Shield?
No.
You got to. I'm about to blow your mind. So Guesty Shield, they take depending on the plan and how much coverage you want, it's damage waiver protection, right? And I love Guesty for this. If someone damages your property and like, what do you have to do? You have to submit a claim. You have to go through them. Now it affects your reviews. Now they can fight back, and Airbnb has to play the middle ground, right? What if you have a direct booking? Like, what kind of coverage do you have? Nothing, right? You're kind of rolling the dice. I'm sure you guys have it. I'm not saying you guys, but a lot of people don't really think through that, right? And so when you go through booking.com, I've literally had no help through booking.com when it comes to damage and getting reimbursed for those things. So it makes it very challenging, but Guesty Shield is what I use, and I pay $35 per reservation. I charge it to the guest, and anything that is damaged, I take pictures of it, which the cleaners do. It comes in through our breezeway. The virtual assistants take that. We order a new item, whatever it is. It could be a coffee table. It could be anything up to $3,500 is what I have. You can get the $5,000 plan per stay, right? And then you can get it replaced if you can prove that it was guest damage. Now, it doesn't cover pet damage or anything like that, or theft, because you could just say, hey, all my stuff was stolen, but then you provide receipts. You don't go through the guests, so you kind of preserve you preserve that review, hopefully, and then you get your stuff kind of replenished really quickly. So I've got about a 99% acceptance rate. It's pretty good, but highly recommend that, especially once. I mean, it's crazy how much money you spend on linens and stuff like that. A pillow sham that gets torn, it's just nuts. So anyways.
Yeah, no, that's very good advice. What do you do, Vivian?
Well, I know that you can do short-term rental specific insurance. So I would recommend doing that if you're doing a lot of direct bookings and things. But what I personally do is just charge $35, I think it is, and I just keep that as a
security deposit.
Yeah, I don't give it back.
Okay.
I'm just building up a war chest in case anything is broken or damaged with them or the next person.
No,
yeah.
I know that's one of the reasons, like I said, me as a small time, just 2-unit guy does everything through Airbnb. I do have the proper insurance on both my places. But my insurance agent knows both of them are short-term rentals. So I have that in place. But as of this moment, I've not had to rely on that for 2 big repairs. Actually, my biggest one to date, which whenever we compare horror stories, y'all bring it back up. But my most expensive one was a $3,900 repair as a glass sliding door, and that like I said, that's why I love Airbnb, because the host coverage totally covered all of it. I was fully reimbursed. It wasn't very hard for me to prove that. I was able just to take a picture of my door and puddle of glass on the ground, and you see the big human-sized hole in the door, and it's kind of hard to argue that. So like I said, it was the easy open shut Airbnb case. But yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's listening who's thinking about getting short-term rentals, make sure that you have the right insurance on your home, regardless of if you're using any of these services or not. Paying for insurance that's not the right insurance is a waste of money, because you're paying for something that the company is going to immediately use an excuse not to get reimbursed you for whatever problem you have. So definitely make sure you have, if it's a long-term rental, make sure your insurance agent knows that. If it's a short-term rental, make sure they know that. But if you are then going to do the short-term rentals, I mean, like I said, that's one of the reasons I recommend Airbnb. But if you kind of stepped up and use something like Guesty, I think, what was that called again, Josh?
Guesty Shield. So there's a damage waiver protection plans out there, and it's for like little stuff, right? Someone breaks your blender, you're not going to file an insurance claim for that, but you don't have to necessarily go after the guests. I mean, you can rate them what they deserve, and then you file the claim, and they don't get to pay it. So,
no, I think that is awesome. So definitely something that everyone to look into. All right, coming to the end of this part one. So these last two are pretty good. We'll start with Vivian. What's something you wish you would have known before you became a host?
Maybe just the fact that it's a full-time job. Like, it's a lot, and like really just how much goes into it. I will say, like, I didn't have too many learning curves just because I really took my time before we went live to do a lot of research. I watched so many hours of like Rob Abasolo. Like, I just made sure that we went into it like as prepared as we could. And so luckily I really didn't have any like, oh dang, I wish, and I got to redo that. Right. But I would say just understanding how much work it is and how you got to be on your phone 24/7. I used to like go on vacation and not bring my phone. Like, I loved not having my phone. So that was a huge adjustment for me, was being like, not only do I need to have it, it needs to be on. Like, I need to be ready in case something goes awry or someone has a question about how to turn on the TV. I'd say that was like the biggest shock, probably.
Definitely gonna be glued on that phone. Josh, what do you wish someone would have told you before you got your first one?
Man, I did a lot of research as well. Just nerded out completely on it, but all the nerding out like didn't really prepare me enough. I mean, I think you just got to jump into it in order to really learn, like, while you're on the ground. But I wish, like, during those first few years I would have thought, like, okay, just done some time analysis and thought, like, how much time is this taking? Oh, you're spending a lot of time communicating with guests. Okay, well, why don't you get a virtual assistant? They can do the communications for you, right? Thinking to scale as you get into the business, as you start to learn it. It's like, all right, I want to free up more time. I mean, during my 4.5 years, I've been so close to just saying, screw this. No more. I'm not doing it. It's not worth it. The owners think I'm making a ton of money. You're making a couple $100, plus some here and there, depending on the season. And then, they're not happy sometimes, or they are, but they don't know exactly all the ins and outs that you're doing. I was losing money my first, few years because I didn't have a bookkeeper. That's a big thing that I would recommend, because that bookkeeper allowed me to see what all my expenses were, how much I was paying or losing or making in what areas. And so analyzing that aspect of your business, the time, the money coming in and out sooner, so if you're profitable or not. Not just with yours, but just even with managing with other people, because if you're spending all your time just fixing stuff and you're not really making a ton of money, then it's like, or enough money for what you're doing, then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not worth doing that. So figuring out what makes it worth it, how to scale, getting a good bookkeeper are some of the key things that I would point out.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's probably even more important to have that bookkeeper to keep track of expenses when you're managing other people's, because
you're
doing it all on your own. At least all the money you're throwing away is into your own investments. You get to recoup it somehow, some way, someday.
Yeah.
But when you are overspending your time and resources into someone else's property, and a few years later, they something happens or they sell the property, so it's no longer under your management. You lose that. So that's very important. All right, if someone's listening and on the fence about launching their first Airbnb, what would you say to them, Vivian?
You guys hear drums?
What is it?
You guys hearing drums? Or
I
something?
do.
I don't know what that is. Oh, was that you, Sam?
No, I don't know. Oh, maybe I was tapping. Maybe I did some tapping.
I was like,
Yeah.
the Indians are coming.
Yeah, I was like, looking out my window. I was like, that's not for me, right? Okay. What if someone's sitting on the fence? What would I say? I would say it really depends on your goal. Like, really think about it before you are like, I'm going to go ahead and buy this property and I'm just going to do it and like jump into it. Not saying like get analysis paralysis, but just make sure that it's what you want to do and that you like are prepared to really put a lot of money into it in the beginning, to really make it a standout place and make it comfy and make it somewhere you would want to go on vacation. Because I think that was like maybe a little bit of a shock at first. We were like, oh, we need to make this nice. And then that got expensive fast. So, and then it was a full-time job. So like, just know what you're getting into and know that you want to do it. And if you do feel that way and you got your ducks in a row, then like jump into it. Go. It's great. Join us.
Awesome. And then what about you, Josh? What would you tell someone who's on the fence thinking about launching their first Airbnb?
I would just tell them, just don't do it and let us keep all the properties out here on the Emerald Coast.
I like that.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I always like to encourage people's entrepreneurial spirits, and I'm all about, you do a little bit of research. I mean, a decent amount of research, and then just go for it. But if you go for it, go all in. Don't half-ass it. No matter what you do, because that's just what you're going to get. You're going to get what you put into it. So, if you're going to do it, go all in.
I like that. And the cool thing is, if y'all go for it and it doesn't work out, you guys can end up calling Josh or Vivian here, and they would love to manage it for you. So there's no lose. This was an awesome part one, especially for people doing beginning. We'll be jumping into part two in our next episode. That'll be more for someone who's already an Airbnb host and how to then become a great one. Before we close out this episode, Vivian, where are the places that people can find you and reach out to you if they want to see more about you, your properties, or talking to you as a host?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Vivian R. Walsh, and just Vivian Walsh.
Perfect. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, so they can just a message on our website, www.roninstays.com, RONINSTAYS.com. And then also ronin.stays is my Instagram handle. Feel free to shoot me a message there.
Awesome. And then for anyone listening, feel free to check out our website, theeliterealestatepodcast.com. We're putting new episodes out every week. If anyone wants to reach out to me personally, you can shoot a message on there, or you can go to my personal Instagram page, Sam_FloridaMan. Right now, my partner, Will, and I are looking for lots in Escambia County because we are currently trying to build new ground-up single-family homes. So if anyone has lots in Escambia County that are interested in selling, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, you can go to our website. We got a thing there where you can reach out to us at theeliterealestatepodcast.com. But this has been an awesome part one episode to our short-term rental roundtable. Everybody, please tune in to part two. Again, it's only going to get better. Josh and Vivian will be with me again, so we can't wait to see everyone on the next episode. Stay tuned, and thank you for listening to the Elite Real Estate Podcast.